Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for all the discussions we've had so far. At this time of the day, we can start looking into the applications of the technology we've been talking so far. So over the days, well, over the afternoon, we've heard some recurrent topics. We've talked about growth and trust across borders. We've talked about connectivity and competition in a fragmented world. We've also talked about seizing opportunities and financial opportunities. And importantly, we have been talking about important tools such as innovation, finance, and AI. So there's a very good and relevant example of an application of technology that can be used to impact our society, and it's healthcare. So for the next 25 minutes, I will be happy to welcome two guest speakers who understand very well how research and industry can help us shape the future of healthcare. Thank you very much, Xin Yan. Thank you very much, Raymond, for joining me on stage. So before we get started on this topic, I would like to invite you both to introduce yourselves, to introduce your technology, and quite importantly, to introduce how you think your technology can impact our lives as a society.
Hi, so my name is Xin Yan. So I represent a company based in Singapore called Moleac. So Moleac is a very interesting pharmaceutical company. We actually have taken a traditional medicine from herbal extracts, and we have done a lot of research on this extract for post-stroke recovery. So currently, we're commercialized in more than 35 markets. We're doing very well as a small to mid-sized kind of company in Singapore. Moleac is also, interestingly, a very French company. All our shareholders are French, actually. Okay. So that's an interesting history that I'll keep it for another day. But essentially, yes, so we look at a lot of innovation around research, around technology, especially what's happening on the ground, because we deal with a lot of herbs, and how we control that batch to batch in terms of production.
Batch to batch variability, yeah.
Exactly, yes.
Hot topic, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. So I'm Raymond P. I'm the research director of the Department of Ophthalmology at the National University of Singapore and the National University Hospital. I'm a visual neuroscientist by training, and what we focus on is how we can use the eye to detect brain diseases, for example, but also how we can use the eye to be able to treat neurological conditions or mood conditions such as depression. So the team that I'm leading focuses a lot on devices like for eye tracking, pupillometry, but also artificial intelligence on fundus imaging, which is a picture of the back of the eye to detect increase in the pressure inside of the brain. So the eye can tell you about your general health and your brain health very simply by looking at the back of the eye or looking at your eye movement and your pupil responses. Happy to elaborate.
So there's a technical link between the eye and mood?
So there's definitely a technical link between the eye and mood. If you've heard about seasonal affective disorders, it's the seasonal depression in general, right? So we don't experience it in Singapore because we don't have seasons, but in Europe we do have seasons, and some populations tend to get more depressed during winter, and the therapy for seasonal affective disorders is actually light therapy in the morning. The eye is linked to multiple parts in your brain, including parts in the brain controlling emotions and mood. And so that's the link between the eye and depression.
Okay. Actually, I was really looking forward to talking to you both because you are in academia and R&D, you are in the industry. I have been here for a while, but I wanted to ask you both, and actually you already halfway answered my question, what it is about developing your technology in Singapore that gives it such an advantage. There is a very vibrant ecosystem when it comes to research, when it comes to industry, or the connection between both. What do you gain specifically from developing this technology in Singapore?
Well, I think more specifically, it's the commercial base that we have here. Regionally in Asia, we have a better market for, in terms of acceptance for such a product. So it makes, reasonable sense, logical sense to be based here in Asia as a first, start. But of course, we have expanded outside of Asia, even though Asia is a very strong commercial market for us. And secondly, of course, Singapore is still a good hub. For example, we work with A-Star, which supports us in a lot of the research that we do, preclinical and biologically.
What kind of supports do you get? Like, in terms of IP protection, in terms of access to market, in terms of technology development?
It's more on the research side for us, not necessarily as on the market access. But definitely Singapore is a very nice hub in terms of trading, because as a made in Singapore product, we actually get better advantage in terms of importing and exporting things out of Singapore. Yeah, so that is definitely a good advantage for us.
Okay. What is your take on this question? Why are you so happy in Singapore?
I'm very happy in Singapore for multiple reasons, but from the professional aspect, let's say research in Singapore is quite strong. NUS is one of the top universities in the world, the same as for other universities in Singapore. So the research is quite robust and solid, and innovation and the quality of students that we see in Singapore is at another level, to be honest. The other aspect is that we are supported from the academic-industry relationship. When I was doing my PhD, the industry was the dark side. PhD students who switched to the industry after a PhD is done were switching to the dark side. This is impossible today. Today it's impossible to call the industry the dark side. Academia and the industry have to move hand in hand and in a collaborative way. And there are multiple ways in Singapore that this is facilitated through multiple programs, through multiple grants, that the scientist who now is forced and should collaborate with multiple other scientists and clinicians have also a pathway to be able to collaborate with the industry and take the inventions forward. Otherwise, it will stay in the lab.
So there is this pathway, because when I was at NUS, like 14 years ago, I remember clearly when there was a switch in the interest of NUS from fundamental to applied research. And when you were developing biomaterials, then there was a bit of stress thinking, oh, if I apply for a grant, I need a clinician on board. How are we going to make it through? But from what you are saying now, NUS is not only putting this as a barrier to jump, they also give you the tools to jump the barrier, and they give you the framework for this kind of interaction.
Yeah, definitely. So I can't speak on the entire NUS process, but I can tell you that the push today is towards translational research, and the encouragement is that we need to collaborate with industrial partners to be able to take that research and make an impact in the community. So this is encouraged nowadays rather than discouraged, for sure. Yeah.
Great. So actually we are seated in a very interesting way. We have early R&D, we have industry, and we have manufacturing. But there's one message that we would like to get across, is that healthcare, the development of healthcare for the bettering of society, is not only an adventure of scientists and engineers. Everybody has a role to play. There is a stereotype that the researcher in their lab optimizes their technology, and once all the R&D is done, they transfer it to the industry, which will develop a process. Once the process is done, you commercialize, and you have this kind of boxes that don't talk to each other, and they just pass each other the ball and then reaches the market as by magic. But actually, it's not really the efficient way of doing. There is a need to have all the actors connected from the get-go. When even before you get started, you have R&D, and then someone is going to ask, okay, but if it's working, how do you industrialize? And even if it's industrialized, how do you commercialize? How do you protect your IP? How do you reach that market? And so there is this ability here in Singapore to connect all the actors, bankers, lawyers. Everybody has a role to play in healthcare. The Singaporean ecosystem has this ability to connect everyone from the get-go to ensure that as soon as you get started, then you have visibility on the finishing line. So what is your point of view? How do you see those interactions with bankers, with lawyers, with industrialists from your own point of view? What is your experience with this?
So the interaction, at least from the sector of healthcare, personally we don't have interactions with bankers. We do have a lot of interactions with lawyers, patent lawyers on that angle. But what I can say is I do agree with you that now the ecosystem is set from the get-go. There are grants and fundings that support this ecosystem of not the scientists, then the industry, no, you have to align with the industry. There's an industry alignment scheme that you discuss with the industry from the start. And I have a couple of grants, actually. I had the pleasure of working on a couple of grants on that scheme. And the discussions are on a weekly basis about the research project, not about how we take it to market, but literally on the fundamentals of the research project, on its impact in the future. And this is from the baseline, from the get-go. So a lot of collaborations that we have are, of course, with engineers. It's a loop nowadays. The scientist, the clinician, the engineer, the industry, the community, all are intertwined and from the get-go, not in steps. It's not a parallel process. It's an ecosystem that goes together.
So when you establish those connections, are you the one who has to spend time going to look for people you need, or is there already a framework existing that brings this capability, this capacity to you? How does it work?
So it's two ways. So either your institute or NUS has a collaboration that is already established with a company, and that company is looking to expand its portfolio or is looking for interesting data from eye research. This is a connection that can be established. Most of the time is based on your publications, on what you've achieved, and the companies would either reach out to you or you would reach out to the company and establish this collaboration to take your invention or your budding invention forward. That's at least from the academic perspective.
Yeah, I think like from an industry perspective, commercialization isn't the end of the story. It's a ongoing, partnership with research, with science, because we keep exploring, we keep looking at, what's possible with the product, what's behind the product. Like for example, for our product, we still have not identified all the active ingredients and how it works in the body, from a pharmacokinetic point of view. So that research is still ongoing, even though it's a commercialized product for more than 20 years.
So do you plan to continue doing this in-house, or do you plan to find a way to outsource to NUS or A-Star?
It's not possible for such a lean company like ourselves. We only have 50 employees around the world to do everything on our own and to own all that specialty. So we do partner a lot with research labs, with different, even for IP, we have our IP lawyers who we trust, and we outsource all of that. Of course, we work together as a team, so we consider it as still the Moleac ecosystem. Everyone knows what's going on, and then we try and input all our expertise and try to synergize that within the company.
So how did you manage to organize this from an intellectual property point of view? Because you have academia on one side that is interested in publishing papers and boosting students. You have industry on the other side that tries to keep everything undercover, somehow confidential. How do you manage to efficiently deal with IP across this academia-industry border?
It's always, I think, a negotiation. Like, it's always a conversation, and then trying to find a win-win for both parties. But I think Singapore is very good at that. Right from the onset, there's a lot of transparency with how we're going to move forward with the collaboration, how we're going to deal with IP. If we develop this, how we're going to, share that. So there's a lot of interesting conversation, and it comes right from the onset before the collaboration even starts.
Okay.
If I may also, I do agree. And the ultimate goal is impact. It's not really a publication. It's impact on society, impact on the patient, impact on the community. And there are multiple ways to achieve impact. publications are amazing. This is our bread and butter for a researcher. We get promoted based on publications, but intellectual property and impact is as important as publications.
Really?
And academia values this.
So when you are within an academic environment such as NUS, do you still have this publish or perish push where you have to have your name in Science every other month, or is NUS also promoting you on your capability to have an industrial impact? This is actually, I'm interested to know. Should I go back to academia? Or?
So the currency is still high impact translational publication, and that would go hand in hand with collaborations eventually with the industry. So this is still a key performance indicator as well, collaboration with the industry, but also impact on society. So the mentality of publish or perish is no longer applicable worldwide, I believe, because today you can publish quite easily. That's my opinion as a scientist. But publishing high impact translational work and taking it from a publication to an implementation, that's the real value, that's the real impact. And you can either do it by launching a startup. Academia also, you have a lot of professors who go ahead and launch startups, or collaborating with the industry who already have an infrastructure and outreach to the patients or to the populations that you're looking for.
So does NUS also provide you support when it comes to switching your brain from academic mindset to startup mindset? Because those are really different hats you need to wear. If you wanted to like spin off more startups now, how would you go about? Does NUS back you up, and what kind of tools do you get?
So again, this will depend on what stage you are in your career, right? If you're in an early stage in your career and you're trying to make it to a tenure position, your currency is still grants, publications, and teaching. However, we do have a lot of researchers who have done tremendously well by launching their own startups. And this is still, when we, let's put it this way, when we submit our achievements, intellectual property, invention disclosure, startups are part of the KPIs.
Okay. Do you have also this this ability to, how to say, from your industrial point of view, do you also sometimes participate to grants with some of your collaborators in academia or publications?
No, but we understand the pressure that they are facing, because we get a lot of requests from the academia side to partner and collaborate. We understand, the KPIs that they have. So it's definitely a robust ecosystem, because there's a lot of information coming in from the academic side as well. So it's not only us thinking about what we can do, it's also the academics telling us what we can do and how we can partner together. For us, it's, we have to make a choice. It's not possible that all the time we provide that grant or that resource to do it, but as much as we can, we try to do it, especially for clinical trials.
Yeah, I understand. Actually, Xin Yan, there's something interesting you said a few minutes ago that I would like to come back to. You were talking about ecosystems that allow you to have a win-win situation. So it seems to me, like from my point of view in the manufacturing and also from the French Tech, that you can have an ecosystem that allows you to win twice, where you come in as an actor and you get out more than what you put in, and also you are part of a team that achieves a greater goal. So if you need to bring, for example, if Raymond, you need to bring your product to market, you need to partner with industries, with investors, you will have IP lawyers, and every kind of actor will come in and bring something. So the investor will bring a pack of money, hoping to get something out. The government will back you up for grant, hoping that some students can join your startups and so on. So there is a need to have those ecosystems established where you are an academic actor joining the chain of actors when you are an industrial actor. If you have bankers or lawyers also jumping in. And the question that I wanted to ask you is, you see what Bpifrance is doing, you see what Temasek is doing, what all those sovereign funds are doing to try to build this ecosystem, but for them it might not be easy to have a vision of the effect of the ecosystem on the ground, whereas you are actors that they try to help. So what would be your message to sovereign funds or all those ecosystem builders? How do you think those ecosystems could work better? And what are the main advantages of those ecosystems so far? When you were, for example, talking about the advantages you had when you were being connected with industry players, what could be done better and which lessons could you share?
Yeah, so I think there's some improvement. That said, Singapore is quite advanced on that angle of connecting the industry to academics. The granting scheme and the ground that has been set up to not let the researcher just focus on his wet lab and not let the industry just focus on the niche that they're developing, and being able to actually develop new molecules or new inventions together with the industry. That is something that is already established but could also be pushed forward by connecting industries to specific teams, to specific departments. So that's on the higher scale of collaboration between academic institutions, the founders, the funders, and the companies and the industry, basically.
Okay.
Well, maybe my point is perhaps not applicable to all, but sometimes some institutes like to look at things in silos. So for example, if you're investing in an academic project, you look at it from a very different KPI as you would a commercialized product, for example, right? And they always look at, sometimes they always look at financial KPIs,
okay,
which is not necessarily applicable, especially when we're in a very early stage, clinical trials or, in the exploratory phase. So I think that's kind of the thing that maybe we should have a little bit more, a broader horizon when we look at or we evaluate projects. Maybe you should also consider, even for a commercial project, to consider, what's the academic saying, and then for the academic, projects to also look at how the industry is looking at it, because you need both actors to come together at one point and to, synergize, so that you have that win-win effect that I was talking about.
So how would you synergize then? Do you think there could be a different hybrid type of KPI that is neither or? How would you have academic KPIs for the commercial side? How would you have financial KPIs for academia? Do you think there would be a way from your industrial point of view?
I haven't really found that, but I think it's a conversation. Having more conversations with the industry players would definitely help, instead of just looking at by the book.
Okay. Yeah. So you were saying your company. Sorry for interrupting. You were saying your company has 50 employees in different countries. Do you? Which other countries are you present in, and do you see some things that work well in Singapore that could also be translated to other countries?
Well, definitely a big chunk of our employees outside of Singapore actually sits in France.
Okay.
No surprise there. And so I think in France, it's a little bit more conservative, I would say, in terms of this collaboration between industry and academics. In Singapore, it's straight on, very in your face. When we do a lot of academic partnership, it's a lot of business talk right from the start. And I think that's something that is not necessarily present in the French academic world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you interact also with the French labs?
Yeah, we do interact, yes, with a lot of French labs. I did my PhD in France. I wanted just to add, the collaboration can also be in the shape of joint labs with KPIs that are suited for the industry, but also for academia. So these would be special labs that will have their own set of KPIs, where the industrial partner would fund a portion of the lab, and grants would fund a portion of the lab, and maybe the academic institution can fund that portion. These are interesting schemes, because then it's adapted to everybody's needs eventually. Yeah.
So from an academic point of view and from an industrial point of view, when it comes to getting everybody together to try to improve healthcare, from the banker to the lawyer to the scientist, are you optimistic about the near-term future Do you think we're going to have a lot of progress in healthcare technology thanks to this connection? What is your point of view?
What I can say is that we can no longer operate in silos. I agree with that. Especially with artificial intelligence, we understood that even one organ cannot operate in silo because it's an entire body. So that applies the same to bankers, clinicians, scientists, engineer, industry. We all have to operate all together. I'm quite optimistic about it, but the world is changing fast, so we need to know how to use AI as well at that angle.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much for your insights. Please do not hesitate to reach out to our speakers when we come off the stage, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.